All right, you sick fucks, welcome to the deep dive. This one's going to get a little weird, and yeah, it's rated 18 plus for a reason. If you're not old enough to drop an F-bomb, get the hell out of here.
So our listener this time sent in a stack of articles comparing Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory to Snowpiercer.
Yeah, I know. What the actual fuck?
I gotta admit, I was totally bullshitting at first. Like, is this some kind of joke? But the more I dug into it, the more I was like, hold on, there might be something here. I mean, could these two really be connected? A kid-friendly classic and a dystopian bloodbath on a train? I need some backup on this one, so let's bring in the voice of reason.
It definitely seems like a stretch at first glance. I mean, we're talking candy rivers and everlasting gobstoppers versus protein bars made of ground-up bugs and, straight-up cannibalism.
But hey, maybe our listener is onto something. There could be some deeper parallels, some fucked-up themes connecting these two seemingly different worlds. Okay, let's cut the crap and get to the F-bombing truth. The articles all point to this basic idea. Both stories are about a group of people navigating a closed-off, totally bizarre structure. You got the factory in Wonka, the train in Snowpiercer, and in both they face these challenges. People get weeded out, and there's that one winner at the end who gets a crazy offer from the dude who created the whole thing.
Exactly, and it's that dude who created the whole thing where things get really interesting. Some people theorize that Ed Harris's character, Wilford, in Snowpiercer, is actually, wait for it, Charlie Bucket all grown up.
Wait, what? You're telling me Charlie, the sweet little chocolate-loving kid, turns into that ice-cold controlling asshat? Talk about a character arc.
Well, power corrupts, right? Think about it. They both have the initial W. William. Wilford even calls Curtis, dear boy, just like Wonka does with Charlie. And let's not forget Charlie was already kind of rule follower in the factory, even when everyone else was losing their shit.
Damn. You might be onto something. And it's not just the characters, right? The articles point out how both films use food in these really symbolic ways.
Absolutely. In Wonka, it's all about the magic of candy, this abundance, this pure, enticing sweetness. It's whimsical, playful, even when things go wrong. But in Snowpiercer, food is a tool of control, a grim necessity for survival. Those protein bars, they're a visual representation of how fucked up and bleak things have become.
Yeah, and that ties into this whole class warfare thing, too. Wonka punishes the bad kids, who are basically little avatars of greed and entitlement, but Snowpiercer takes that shit to a whole other level, showing how the lower classes are literally exploited to keep the whole system running. It's like, hey, you poor fucks can shovel coal and eat bugs so we can have steak and champagne up here in first classes.
What's fascinating is how both stories tap into this primal fear of scarcity. In Wonka, it's the scarcity of the golden tickets, the limited access to this world of pure imagination. In Snowpiercer, it's the scarcity of resources, the constant struggle for survival that fuels the conflict.
Okay, so we've got these overarching themes. But the articles also go deep on specific character parallels. And some of them are seriously mind-blowing, like Veruca Salt's tantrums, those totally mere Mason's entitled rage in Snowpiercer, right? Both of them just totally lose their shit when they don't get what they want.
Right, it's like Bong Joon-ho, the director of Snowpiercer, took these childhood archetypes of bad behavior from Wonka and twisted them into these grotesque, almost monstrous figures. It makes you wonder, what happens to those kids who don't make it to the end of Wonka's factory? Do they end up as the exploited masses in Snowpiercer?
Whoa. Now that's a fucked up thought, but it kind of makes sense if we're going with this sequel theory.
Yeah.
Like, maybe Bong Joon-ho is saying, hey, remember that fun little story? Well, here's the gritty, realistic aftermath.
It's a dark and twisted idea, for sure. And speaking of dark and twisted, we got to talk about Augustus Gloop. That dude is all about stuffing his face, no self-control whatsoever. Kind of reminds you of that creepy child catcher in Snowpiercer, Claude, who's practically bloodthirsty in her hunger.
Yeah, it's like this grotesque exaggeration of gluttony. You've got Augustus gorging himself on chocolate, and then you've got Claude literally snatching kids to feed the elites.
And don't forget, Mike TV, glued to the screen, obsessed with technology. The articles suggest that foreshadows the way Snowpiercer portrays violence as entertainment, with people cheering on the fights in the train cars. It's almost like Mike's obsession with the spectacle with the mediated image becomes this horrifying reality where violence is the main attraction.
Damn, that's bleak, man. But it makes you think, right? What if those seemingly innocent flaws in Wonka's world become amplified and distorted in the harsh reality of Snowpiercer?
Exactly. And that's where this whole sequel theory gets really interesting, because it asks us to consider what happens to innocence in a world gone mad? What happens to hope in a world defined by scarcity and violence?
Okay, now you're just messing with me. My brain is starting to hurt. We're going to take a break and come back to this, but seriously, folks, this shit is deep. Stick around. We'll be right back after this.
Sounds familiar. Yeah. All right, let's dive back into this rabbit hole. Where were we?
Oh, yeah.
Talking about how fucked up the world of Snowpiercer is compared to Wonka's chocolate-coated fantasy.
Seriously, man, my head's spinning. You're telling me sweet little Charlie grows up to be a tyrannical asshat who controls the last remnants of humanity on a giant frozen train. It's kind of hard to swallow.
Well, think about it. What if Charlie inherits Wonka's factory and becomes this mega corporation, like Wonka Industries? And then climate change hits, the world goes to shit, and Wonka Industries steps in with this crazy solution. The Snowpiercer. And it's a stretch, sure, but it's not entirely implausible.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. But even if we buy into this whole sequel theory, the endings of these two movies are totally different. Charlie gets the factory, everything's happy-go-lucky, but Snowpiercer ends with like a polar bear and the potential destruction of the entire human race.
Right, and that's where things get really interesting. Both films end with a kid inheriting a system. You've got Charlie with the factory, and in Snowpiercer, you've got that little girl Yona emerging with Timmy into this uncertain future. But Snowpiercer throws a curveball. Curtis, the hero, rejects Wilfred's offer to take over. He chooses to blow the door off the train, even though it means risking everything.
Yeah, it's like he's saying, fuck this whole system, we're gonna start fresh, even if it kills us. It's badass, but it's also terrifying. Like, what happens next? Do they survive? Do they create a better world? Or do they just repeat the same mistakes all over again?
Exactly. It's this incredibly ambiguous ending. Is it hopeful, or is it just setting up the cycle of exploitation to start all over again? Snowpiercer doesn't give you easy answers, makes you think, makes you question whether humanity is capable of learning from its mistakes.
Okay, deep breaths, everyone. We're going dup here. But I gotta ask, is Snowpiercer just a commentary on Willy Wonka, or is it saying something bigger, something about the real world? I mean, I'm starting to feel a little pissed off thinking about all this.
That's the million-dollar question. Remember, Snowpiercer is all about climate change, unchecked capitalism, the widening gap between the haves and the have-nots. These are issues that were already simmering beneath the surface in Willy Wonka, even if we didn't see them as clearly back then.
So maybe Snowpiercer is like this dark mirror reflecting back all the anxieties and consequences that were hidden beneath the surface of Wonka's whimsical world.
It's certainly possible. Think about it. Wonka is this brilliant inventor, but his creations are ultimately driven by profit, by this desire to create and sell. Sound familiar? It's like the whole foundation of our modern economy, right? Innovation, consumerism, constant growth, but at what cost?
Yeah, and the cost of that growth is often hidden, just like the Oompa Loompas working behind the scenes in Wonka's factory. In Snowpiercer, those costs are laid bare. Environmental devastation, social stratification, violence, it's all out in the open and it's fucking brutal.
You hit the nail on the head. And maybe that's the most disturbing connection between these two films. They both show us how easily we can be seduced by spectacle, by the promise of pleasure and abundance, even when it comes at a terrible price. We get so caught up in the candy-coated surface that we forget to look beneath to see the exploitation and the suffering that make it all possible.
Damn, that's some heavy shit.
Yeah.
You know, I gotta admit, this whole deep dive has kind of blown my mind. I'm low-key pissed off that I never noticed any of this before. Like, how did I miss all these connections?
That's the beauty of film, right? There's always more to discover, new layers of meaning to uncover. And honestly, I'm a little bit jealous of you. You get to rewatch both these films with this fresh perspective, seeing them in a whole new light. Maybe you'll even pick up on some details we missed.
You know what? You're right. Maybe I'll even throw a double feature party, get some folks together to debate this whole sequel theory. We can have everlasting gobstoppers and those nasty-ass protein bars.
Huh, now you're talking. And who knows, maybe we'll uncover even more connections, more hidden messages buried within these stories.
Okay, but before we wrap this up, I gotta ask, do you buy into this whole Charlie Bucket becomes an evil dictator theory? Like, for real?
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I do think both films in their own way are cautionary tales. Willy Wonka warns us about the dangers of unchecked desire and the importance of humility. Snowpiercer pushes that further, showing us what happens when those desires lead to societal collapse and environmental catastrophe.
Damn, that's deep. So what does this all mean for our listener, the one who sent in all these articles? What's the takeaway here?
I think the most important thing is this. Don't take things at face value. Look for the deeper connections, the hidden messages, the things that make you think critically about the world around you. Don't be afraid to question the things you love, to see the darkness beneath the surface.
And that's what the deep dive is all about, right? Challenging your assumptions, expanding your mind, and maybe having a few laughs along the way, even if those laughs are kind of dark and twisted.
Precisely. And who knows, maybe our listener will uncover even more crazy connections between these films. Maybe they'll find even more fucked up truths hiding in plain sight.
You know what's really fucking with me now? What if Snowpiercer isn't just a commentary on Willy Wonka, but like a hidden message baked into it all along? What if Roald Dahl was some kind of prophetic asshat planting these dystopian seeds in a seemingly innocent kid's story?
Whoa, now that's a thought. It's not like children's stories haven't tackled dark shit before.
Yeah.
Think about the original fairy tales. Those were fucked up.
Totally. Like, the original Little Mermaid is a tragedy, not the Disney sing-along bullshit.
Exactly. So maybe Dahl was subtly weaving in this warning about consumerism, environmental destruction, the dangers of unchecked power. He just disguised it with candy and Oompa Loompas.
Damn, I'm never gonna look at a Wonka bar the same way again. Beneath that chocolatey goodness, there's this hidden layer of social commentary. It's kind of blowing my mind.
That's why we love these deep dives, right? You start with a simple question and end up down this rabbit hole of connections and insights. And let's be real, some seriously fucked up realizations.
No kidding. I'm gonna need a shit ton of chocolate to process all of this.
Right.
But hey, at least I'm not alone. We've got our awesome listener who sent in this crazy theory, and all of you out there hopefully getting your minds blown right along with us.
Here's to the power of stories. Even the seemingly innocent ones. They can challenge us, make us think, and maybe even inspire us to change the world. Or at least stop it from turning into a giant frozen train full of protein bars and despair.
Word. And on that note, we're wrapping up this deep dive. But remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Keep those theories coming, keep digging for connections, and let's keep exploring the hidden depths of the stories we love. Even the ones that make us say, what the F-bomb? Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and stay awesome. Peace out.